Hey, everybody, we are back with a live edition of Veteran Nation Live today. How are you all doing out there? Let me first start off by welcoming the two co hosts for the show, the always great TC. Welcome.
It's true. It's true.
And becoming a staple of the show, AVA. Welcome.
Good
And by
morning, everyone.
staple, we mean a small piece of metal that holds paper together. That's literally what he does.
Oh, thank you. I feel
Or
useful.
a company that sells overpriced office
You
supplies.
you are more useful than any politician or government employee.
That
And
means
I
a lot.
and I mean that including the company that we keep.
Oh, so how are you guys doing today? You having a good weekend so far?
I'm having a great weekend already.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good over here. It's great weather today. Nice and sunny.
I had a great week. It was nice and cool here, but it's gotten warm again.
I I, I don't know. I'm suffering buyer's remorse. I got my weight down to an all-time low for 40 years yesterday. What did what did I send? It was 176
Yeah, I believe that's what it was.
176 yesterday. 176.8 yesterday, and so I treated myself. I went out, took Mrs. TC out to one of our favorite pizzerias, and we have not done that in a very long time. And I got a small 4 meat pizza, and she got her own thing, and it was a small. It wasn't wasn't a big. But I ate that whole thing, half of it at the pizzeria and half of it at home afterwards. And then on our way home, we stopped at a new little craft cocktail place that we had just discovered, and I had a Irish amber. And then we stopped at our favorite place in town and each got a drink there. And I'm regretting it because my weight went back up 4 pounds. Well, 3 pounds. So I lost all my gain or gained all my losses yesterday after treating myself to pizza. So now I feel like I have to. But it's funny. When I started this weight loss, Skipper didn't know me when I was really fat. Um, by the time Skipper and I met, I had already started to lose weight. But when I started my weight loss, I was 300 plus pounds, and I said I'm gonna get down to 195. And the closer I got to to 200, I was really excited, and I got to below 200 for the first time, and I went and had a cheat day, and then I got to 195 below 195 for the first time, and I was like, wow, this I'm gonna have a cheat day. So I had a cheat day, and then I'm like, well, let's shoot for 185. And I got to 185 and I had a cheat day. And now I got down below 180. Like I've been down below 180 4 times now since I've been below 185. And I feel like I need to find a good, healthy place to stop.
You're going to be a skinny mini.
I mean, does that make sense? It's like I hit the treadmill really hard this morning, feeling guilty.
Gotta flog yourself.
Yeah, I did. I was flogging myself. I did 15 miles this morning. So,
Whew. You go, man.
well, my average day is 10 to 11, so I only did 4 extra, but I don't. My t-shirts don't fit the same. I'm like now at the point, like I used to leave my t-shirts untucked. I know all the guys out here will represent this with me. You get to a point where you wear all of your shirts untucked, not because you're lazy and slobby, but because it hides the fat better. And now I'm at a place where I'm comfortable tucking my t-shirts in, and even tucking them in, they don't fit the way they should, to the point where you are now obsessed with your weight. Yes, Nancy, I am. Um, the missus was like, I was wearing a fitted t-shirt, and she like, hey, I kind of like that on you. And now I'm like busy scrolling, looking for fitted t-shirts on Amazon. And then I need one of the women to explain this to me. I don't know what happened. I was somewhere the other day. I don't even remember where I was, and the gal behind the counter was like, "Wow, look, how did TC look?" Yeah, well, I haven't done my hair the last couple of days, so.
Me too.
But the gal behind the counter, I mean, I know she's a regular I can't even remember where it was one of my regular stops. She's like, "Man, what's up with all those veins in your forearm?" And I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, you know women like that, right?" And I'm like, "What?" I guess that's a thing. So maybe one of the women in the audience can explain that to me. I don't know. It's weird. I'm like, well, yeah, I got veins in my well, blood flows to my arms. So there's, I don't know. There's some weird female fetish thing. I don't know. I tried asking Gemini, and Gemini's like, yes, there are women who have a thing about veins in there, and didn't explain any of it to me. It just said that's a reality. So I don't know. It's weird.
Maybe it's a daddy issue.
There's only one person in this group that has a daddy issue, and that's you.
Aw.
Because I am your baby daddy.
Yeah, the issue is you're not paying. There's no child support coming in.
No, you're supposed to pay me to claim to be your baby daddy. That's how that works, remember?
Well, I've been working on adulting, trying to get my own house. I've been recently working on my credit, and I'm thinking about filming the process of the VA home loan and try to get that out and show everybody the ups and downs and ins and outs of what it's going to take to get a VA home loan.
It's an interesting process. I'll say that.
Yeah, I was thankful for so many people are going to be shocked. I was actually thankful for the VA when it came to home loans, because that's how I got my house. They shopped that thing around until they found somebody that was dumb enough to give me a line of credit. So
it is it's a great benefit that's available.
Felt like it was my way of making up for not taking advantage of the GI Bill that I spent money on, but didn't follow through with. So hello to everybody in the chat, by the way. We got Paul is here. Nancy. Nancy says it's just vampires that work at drawing blood. I don't know, Nancy. It feels like it's a thing. It might be with a younger generation of women, though. Older women, I don't know so much. Not that you're older, Nancy. I'm just saying.
You should look and see. You probably still have GI Bill benefits you can use. But if not, you would be eligible for the Department of Labor's vocational rehab, which is a great program for veterans.
I would like to rehab my vocation, yes.
Isn't there a program where you could transfer your GI Bill to your child?
There is, yes.
Oh, I was just thinking about that. I don't think I even used any of mine.
And for any of the veterans, it doesn't matter that they're not a California resident. They can send their children to a California state school virtually for free. They still have to pay the fees and books, but significantly less than the tuition.
Did you just say send your child to a California
State school, yes.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
I believe that counts for online too. Don't quote me on that part of it. But it's something that California does. A lot of states that provide free tuition, like I know Florida and Texas do. I believe you have to be a resident. The veteran has to be a resident there. California, no residency required. You just have to be a veteran. Your child can go to school for free.
Redneck
Or-
Mafia is here. Hey, Redneck. Nice to see you.
I should say your child can be indoctrinated for free.
There's that. Sweet Yankee Bell is here. Georgie's here. I know everybody knows Georgie's here because we've already read some of her comments. Nancy, 64 is not old. Trust me. The older that I get, the less old ages like 60 and 64 feel. Does anybody else remember when you were like 10 and you'd look at your parents and your grandparents and you'd go, man, they're so old. And then you got to your grandparents or your parents' age and you were like, when you were 10 and you got to the age that they were when you were 10 and you're like, why did I think they were so old? Yeah, I don't.
I agree with that. Like that accident that I was in previously, the lady that was in the car driving, she said, "I hate old people." I'm like, man, I'm not even that old.
I don't know if you might have missed it yesterday, AVA. Georgie was asking why all Hawaiian desserts are made out of pudding.
They're not made out of pudding.
No,
It just has thickeners in it.
First of all, I don't even know what pudding is, but
Pudding's my nickname for Skipper.
Lady Jen, thanks for saying hello. Oh God, you let her. Why are you letting her in on Vet Nation?
Go away.
Doesn't she get enough airtime?
You say your name, she appears.
Good Lord.
You said my name like 3 times. Obviously, you wanted me to come in.
Heroes Chris is here. Hello, Heroes Chris.
Yeah, change the subject. You look like a fucking buffoon with a hat on.
Hey, don't talk about my baby daddy like that.
Shut up, Ava.
Them fighting words.
You. It is the dead of summer and you're wearing a boggin. Why? If you go outside, you'll have a heat stroke, especially with your old age.
I'm in the best shape of anybody on the panel currently. What are you talking about?
That's true.
John, we've discussed that on this channel before.
Yeah.
We're happy to talk about it again.
I think cases of deeded property being leased out by UCLA and others by VA administration.
Acres is what he means.
Oh, acres.
Yeah, we've talked about it. We've even tried to talk to this guy called Mr. Checkpoint, who's pretty much on the ground in that area.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we've talked about it a lot, actually. We bring it up pretty much every time, especially when we're dealing with such an incredibly high rate of homeless veterans in California. Of course, California attracts. Yeah, California certainly does attract a high number of homeless anyway, but it certainly attracts a high number of homeless vets just because of the temperate weather there. And so
it's high. It's very high.
Yes. And so we would certainly like to see that change, but getting the VA to change any of its policies or decisions when they can rake in the money, I think, because they lease those properties out to UCLA, don't they?
Yep, it's all leased.
Yeah, they're not going to stop leasing those properties out when that money can basically go onto their books without having to go out to the vets. And that's because the money that goes out to vets, be it through care, benefit packages, things like that, is accounted for differently. And when they're leasing property, that basically can go into, for lack of better terminology, a slush fund that will fund.
Where they hire people to help
yeah.
vets.
Yeah. So they're not going to do anything about it. Sure, a lot of congressmen and women should be answering a lot of questions about how the VA is handled, not just one.
There's a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit about that. And I think that's where we're going to see more answers. I haven't heard an update on it, but the federal court moves incredibly slow.
Which
Oh, nice.
honestly you want. You should always want everything in government, even the courts, to move slow. Ed's asking how to get in.
Oh, I didn't realize he was. How is he in the private? Oh,
I mean, if that doesn't prove that the VA doesn't care about veterans, then I don't know what's going to show proof.
Well, I'll just say what I always say, and I know a lot of people don't like it, but Skipper and I have kind of come to an agreement on this. The best thing that could happen would be the VA be completely disbanded, and the money that would go to the VA on an annual basis, budgetary wise, should just be doled out equally across all the veterans. And
would be a wiser way to spend the money.
You could even you could even put requirements on it. I don't know, AVA, what you think, but you could put even requirements on it where they have a, I don't know, for lack of better terminology, some sort of medical spending card where that money goes to, the stuff that would have been there to cover your medical expenses. It would just go to a medical spending card that you use to pay medical bills. And I'm something.
Looking forward to talking to Ed today when he comes in here. He has a program where the VA actually sends someone to clean his house a couple times a week.
Oh, nice!
I'd like to get in on that.
Right?
I'd like.
You need to get a service-connected disability, TC, which means you got to file a claim.
Oh, yeah, you got to do that part.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that.
We could probably get AVA.
Well, yeah, that'd be a nice break.
I think we should get AVA in on that, and then we could have him request to have the person who's sent to his house to clean it has to show up in a French maid's costume, even if they look like Skipper.
I wonder if I can request the topless maids. There's a topless maid service out here.
What if I'm the one sitting on the couch in the French maid outfit just staring at them while they're cleaning? Oui, oui.
I think on some level that would probably enter into the realm of psychotic.
Oh, you clean so good.
I love the way you polish that banister knob.
And I sent you a new link. Try that one. And I find it's best to sign in using a Google account. And if you have a Google account, use that to sign in to Restream.
Well, while we're waiting for Ed, Skipper, you finally got your wish.
Uh-oh.
Harvey Milk is no longer the Harvey Milk.
Oh, yes.
Which was interesting because I'm the one that broke the news to Skipper. I thought that Skipper
was being discussed and debated.
I thought Skipper would be the one to have some sort of Google alert set up for that. And sure enough, I had to tell him yesterday. Yeah, it's being renamed.
They said they were going to. I think what the stall was they had to rename it. And they named it the Oliver V. Peterson. Is that the name? I know it's in one of these stories. Yeah, Oliver V. Peterson. But yeah, they keep talking about Harvey Milk being this great civil rights leader for LGBTQ plus. I don't know if the plus stands for HIV, but yeah, they keep touting him as that. But the dude it's well documented. He groomed a 15-year-old boy when he was 34 years old, and then ended up in a very, very toxic relationship with him. This sounds like a good show. I'll
Well,
take
you've
a
not
look at
seen
it,
that?
Nancy.
You haven't seen Article 99?
No, I haven't.
Oh yeah, it's actually a very, very interesting and compelling movie. Hey, Joko. It's good to see you. Joko must be joining us from AVA.
Huh?
Yes.
AVA's got a couple people over there watching on his
What's
channel.
up, Joko
Joko shows up in
and
my
John
stream.
and Greg?
And Lou. Lou's here. Hi.
Oh yeah, I got it. I'm
None of
scrolling
these-
as I go.
None of these stories. So we got that one from military.com up, and I'll put this one up from ABC. None of these stories mention Harvey Milk being a pedophile, a documented
Gee,
pedophile.
what? No. Well,
And yeah, like rename the ship during Pride Month, which celebrates the LGBT community. Okay. He was a Navy veteran and was discharged at the rank of junior lieutenant after being threatened with a court martial because of his sexual orientation. He was a pedophile.
well, he doesn't meet the definition of pedophile, but I mean, I know your theory on it, but hebephile maybe, but not a pedophile.
You see, I reject that one because I've had people tell me that no, anyone who's not of legal age.
Well, they're not saying that they're legal. They're just they break it down based on the shall we say physical maturity aspects. It's still sick and gross, but yeah.
There's Ed.
Hi, I think.
You made it.
We got a Navy veteran to talk about the Navy issue.
Okay, I think I'm in here.
Yeah, we got you.
Mr. Coop says he's taking
Okay,
his box
hello,
of cookies
everybody.
and heading back to the sandbox. I don't know. Did you do something to Coop? Oh, I know. Coop's feeling left out because he's not running the show today. Skipper, you have yourself in as a guest today? Well, that's kind of odd.
Oh, does it say guest? I'll change that. I'll fix it.
Nancy, he was 15 when Harvey started to groom him, and then started the actual physical aspect of the relationship with him when he turned 16. So
16 and Milk was 35.
yeah, and it was very, yeah, it's a very disgusting story. So
That's
Yeah.
but yeah, so the Harvey Milk is no longer now it's the spoilt milk.
Womp womp.
I don't know who Oliver
Doubling.
V. Peterson was.
Well, it's, I appreciate the fact that they're changing it from the Harvey Milk to this other guy's name, but it's a little bit in keeping with what Trump has done since he came back into office in 2025 with the renaming of the renamed military installation. So like Fort Bragg was changed to Fort Liberty by the naming commission, and all of us people from the 82nd and its support units and whatnot there said, like, I'm never going to call it Fort Liberty. I'm always going to call it Fort Bragg. And so they changed it back to Fort Bragg, but then they jumped through all these really weird hoops to explain how they're not naming it after General Bragg. They're naming it after somebody else who was stationed at Fort Bragg, who was named Fort Bragg, or whose last name was Bragg. And it's like, why not just change the name back to Bragg and say, yeah, we're naming it after the Confederate General Bragg because he was a really good general. He was a great commander. But you can't have that. You can't have that at all, because there's no such thing as a good Confederate. They were all evil, knuckle dragging.
They passed a law that said they couldn't name anything after Confederate officers, and
it wasn't a law. It was a decision by the renaming committee.
No. They did pass a law.
Jets at once.
Huh?
Say that.
I'm hearing 2 jets at once. I'm going to get out and come back in.
Okay.
He's having bleed issues. Maybe it was a law, but
they did have a law, and I think they just repealed it.
Well, good. But I mean, it was just, it's this whole misconception about Confederate officers and everything anyway. And because I think they had kind of the same thing with Benning going on, and I'm like, get over it, for the love of God. It's done. It's over. But yeah, people have a hard time moving on. Oliver
V. Peterson was a chief petty officer involved in the Battle of Coral Sea. His ship was heavily damaged by a Japanese dive bomber, and him and members of the repair party he led were severely wounded. Despite his injuries, he managed to close 4 bulkhead steam line valves, suffered third-degree burns to his face, shoulders, arms, hands in the process, and by shutting the valves, he isolated the steam to the engine room to help keep the ship operational. He was posthumously given the Medal of Honor.
Which is sadly how most of the Medal of Honor winners get it, is posthumously.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is convenient on the part of a lot of the officers, because they don't want to salute an enlisted guy.
You know what's funny, Nancy, is all the people who want everything renamed because of slavery, they all love the Broadway musical Hamilton. And Hamilton was a slave supporter and one-time slave owner.
Well, here's one, and people get really mad at me about this, and Skipper knows, and I'm swaying him. He's starting to see my view on this. There's this idolatry of Lincoln, right? And Skipper probably knows where I'm going to go with this, since Nancy kind of brought this up and we're talking about it. But there's this idolatry of Lincoln, this false idea that Lincoln freed the slaves and that Lincoln fought the war to end slavery, which of course we know is patently and demonstrably untrue. The American Civil War was not fought to end slavery. Lincoln had no interest in freeing the slaves. And when it came down to it, the number one enemy of the Union in the eyes of all the people who are Lincolnians was Lee. We talk about Jefferson Davis, but he gets next to no attraction or attention when it comes to General Lee. What a lot of people don't know is that when Mary Todd Lincoln's father died, he bequeathed all of his slaves to her. Her being married to Lincoln, that meant Lincoln inherited all of Mary Todd Lincoln's slaves. like nobody knows that Lincoln kept those slaves. And Lee actually freed all of his slaves. So
Can you hear me?
So, yeah, we can hear you, Ed. We're not
Okay.
ignoring you to ignore you. But
I'm just making sure I'm not bleeding anymore.
and so historically, the guy that's like attacked for being part of the slave owning confederacy and being a slave owner had no slaves. And the guy who was responsible for really wanting to take the slave owning Confederate guy without slaves out was a slave owning Unionist. So make it make sense, folks. This is the nature of American history and politics. Skipper brought up indoctrination earlier. There you go. So that's what it is. So Skipper said he...
Well, probably not as bad. I'm a bit of a file myself because we share the same birthday.
You're a Lincoln file because you share Lincoln's
A little
birthday.
bit about them.
Man. That's I know somewhere there's some evil person that I share a birthday with. I'm not gonna. It's probably like Jeffrey Dahmer or something. That's or as Mr. Coop likes to call me, it's probably Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. I probably have a birthday in common with him or something. So Mr. Coop calls me the Unabomber.
Well, I have to apologize
know
now
what
for having
judging
so many
means.
problems getting in here.
You're okay, Ed. I do want to.
Oh gosh, you fit in.
Story that Ed has. Ed found some weapons one time.
Ed, you look like you threw Ed off. I don't know.
Right,
if
we
Ed
talked about
understood
that the last
yours.
time.
Oh, did we? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you don't remember? Ed, this is what I
There are
this
other
is what I deal
stories
with
as well
every
about
time
the
with Skipper.
Yeah.
Ed and I have had a couple
We
conversations
talked about
on the phone,
the
so
time.
they all bleed together.
Yeah. I do have other stories too, but that's, the old days of the Navy. You got to remember, I was in the
Oh, we'd
Navy
love
back
to
in the
hear it.
70s. Let's see, where can I start? I can start with the ship I was on was a World War II era ship. It was the oldest ship in commission in the Navy. So it was used to train pilots to land and take off from an aircraft carrier. Back then, we probably lost, on average, of one pilot a week in the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America. And you would never hear about it. They'd be in T-28s, the prop jobs. They'd be in A4s. They'd be in A6s. I've seen jet fighter planes blow up. I've seen them go into the drink. I saw one man drown because he forgot to take off his parachute. He was standing on the plane, and it decided to go down, and he went with it. But yet, you never heard anything about it on the news. You never heard a word. It was a scary thing. And yet today, if they have it happen, because I still live in Florida, if it happens now, it's all over the news. But back in the 70s, you never heard a word. We lost a lot of guys to training back then. There's many guys that had to help shatter the drink.
My uncle was a avionics aircraft instructor by the time he retired from the Navy. He was teaching at one of the schools, the one in Millington, actually. And he would give so many accounts of planes slamming into the back of our fighters, slamming into the back of aircraft carriers coming in for landing on choppy seas, and yeah, you lose a lot more in training.
And these, like I said, these guys were training. They were still cadets.
Yeah.
And a more lighter noted story was they filmed the movie Midway while I was stationed on board. And the lighter end of it was you never knew who to salute. You'd be walking down the gangway and you'd see an officer coming and you get ready to salute that man and you look and it was Charlton Heston. Or it was Glenn Ford. Or it was a guy from Chips. We had them on for months. And for a while I think they actually officially said, you don't have to salute for a while because everybody's getting confused.
Which is, kind of in keeping with the military spirit. I'm done. I'm confused. I don't even know what to do anymore.
Yeah, well, the military was different then. We had an admiral in charge of the CNO was Admiral Zumwalt, and he wanted to make it more of like a regular job, so to speak. And so basically when it got to be 4:00 in the afternoon, unless you had the duty that night, you went home. There was no such thing as a Liberty Pass or anything like that. You went home. It was like your job. You went to work at 8, you went home at 4. Why I left, I'll never understand, but it was great. I was stationed in Philadelphia. I went home every weekend to New York. Every weekend I went home to New York. It was nice. I loved it. But since I mentioned Philadelphia, I've had a story I've been wanting to hold on just for Skipper because he was a Marine. I had a friend that was a Marine that was stationed in Philly. His name was Mike, but that's all I remember. You got to remember, this is in the 70s. The Marines had a separate barracks. Now, our barracks, it was like a motel room. The only thing that was different was you had one bathroom for the whole floor. Other than that, they all looked like motel rooms. We went one night to pick up our friend Mike to go downtown, and he was in the Marine barracks. We had to go up the stairs in an older building. At the top of the stairs was a table. At that table was sitting some type of sergeant. We got up to the top of the stairs, and I said, "Hey, Sarge, how you doing? Is Mike around?" And he slowly looks up at me, and he looks at his arm, and he looks up at me. He says, "Can I help you?" I says, "Yeah, Sarge, is Mike around?" And he looks at his arm, and he looks at me. He says, "Do you see these stripes?" I said, "Yeah, very nice. It looks very good on you. Is Mike around?" And excuse my English, but he looked down and he said, "God damn flipping swabbies." He called Mike and had him come down. He wanted us to call him by his rank because he demanded that respect. But we wouldn't do it. That's my story for Skipper. I think he knows what I'm talking about.
It's a very Marine thing. Yeah.
Very Marine. But as far as any other stories, we had a young lady who was, when we were on the tugboats in Philadelphia, was known as Back Channel Annie. Any new guys that were transferred in, I'm trying to be nice about this. She initiated them. Let's put it that way. She initiated them to our command. And every new man that came in had to spend one evening with Back Channel Annie. Yeah.
It's like
I'll
Skipper's
stop for a
back
minute
channel,
and let you guys talk about,
like
and I'll
Skipper's
join in.
back channel. Skipper's back channel Lacey.
Yeah. Well, actually, I met Annie in a strange way because I was in my barracks room, my motel room, and I got woke up in the middle of the night, and it was a girl crawling into the bed with me because my buddy thought it'd be a good way to get me initiated.
I feel like from what you're saying about Annie, I don't know if there's anything that's not a strange way to be like initiated by Annie. Especially with that name, especially when we know that back channel is just code for something else.
No, actually, it's not. Back channel meant that, see, because The
You don't.
ships
Please don't try to
in the
explain.
multiple
Please,
feeder in the
please don't explain. Just let it go, Ed. Let it go, because nothing that you could say about it at this point is not going to get twisted and turned around by somebody on the panel or in the chat, if not all at the same time.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean, and it wasn't meant that way, but that's okay. It might as well be, though. Let's put it that way.
Thank you,
Thanks
Linda.
to-
Well, I'm sorry I took so long getting in here, but I'm glad I'm here. Thank you, Skipper.
Yeah, no, thank you. We appreciate you being here, Ed. And thank you, Linda Early, for the $10. We like money.
we do. Some of y'all need to come over and, just saying, I stream too.
TC needs some cheddar.
He needs a new
As you know,
camera
Skipper,
for
I
the
talked to my
Freedom
friend.
Plot.
I talked to my friend last night, and he seems fairly excited about coming and talking to you. But his next couple of weeks are pretty much filled up.
We understand. We got to talk to your other buddy, too, up there in New York.
Yeah, the guy who was involved in the helicopter crashes. Yeah.
Things are starting to calm down. And yeah, Skipper's got some. I got a video going out tomorrow that I think people are either going to love it or hate it. And it's, yeah.
Well, it's a very bold prediction, Skipper. I don't go out on a limb.
It's going to involve puppets.
I'm just not. I'm just like something has like things have just devolved. They
Are you
just
by
devolved.
yourself when you do things with these puppets?
Please don't ask him that question. He showed us
And
a
I
puppet
think-
earlier. He said he was just going to nickname it Handy, and I don't know where he's going with that. So
Actually, Coop has me convinced I need to build a puppet, and we're coming up with a name. All I know is I want the puppet to be a homeless veteran.
yeah, you asked us about that earlier in our little side chat, and I don't know how I
Just show him your the picture.
don't.
Do I have it on here? I might.
Could one of the mods put my channel in the chat? Georgie.
Got to bring back the Freedom Plot.
I do, but it's strange. I know I keep talking about it, but it's so much easier to do when the weather's cold because they're confined in the sub-zero, in that 15-degree weather or lower. They're confined to the coop, and so there's a lot more to see. But when the weather's nice, they don't want to be in the coop, but they do even more entertaining stuff outside. And so I need like 3 outdoor cameras that I can run at the same time. And they do not make a webcam that is outdoor friendly. And
That's
so I
the
have
inspiration. Just so people have an idea of what I'm going to make.
so I have to.
My security system has 3 outdoor cams
Right.
that
But
all run at the same time.
Yeah, security cameras are way different than webcams that you can actually connect to your computer and use on a streaming device or use for streaming. And I had to do so much research on this. And so when you look for an outdoor cam or a streaming camera for outdoor use, it always brings up security cameras. Well, you have, and a lot of the security systems that you would use it with, you have to sign up and you have to pay for, and then they don't allow you to stream your security camera because it's for security purposes. So, and I have
Thank you,
security
George.
cam. So I'm having to come up with a way to basically build a plexiglass box and
Thanks, Paul.
put the camera in it, but with the humidity levels that we have and the heat that we have, people don't understand this. Even though I'm in Minnesota, we have really high humidity and incredibly high heat in the summer. When you put the camera in a plexiglass box to protect it from the elements, you're also risking moisture buildup and heat buildup. So I'm trying to come up with a way to make it work. So
Drill holes in the bottom.
right. But that
Elements
doesn't
will
really do
do
much.
and
Yeah, it doesn't do
will
as much
normalize
about
it.
the humidity. It certainly gives it more venting, but the humidity still builds up. So I'm working around it. So
Maybe we can find somebody with a 3D printer and print you a box that has a CPU fan at the top to draw the moisture out.
that's an idea.
You can get solar powered CPU fans off like Temu and AliExpress and stuff.
I don't do the Temu thing. I know. I was just gonna say there's two things that when I'm watching people's streams, and everybody knows this because they'll be really active in the chat in other people's streams. There's two topics when they come up. I'm just like, okay, I'm out of my depth here. What the hell's? And
We're trying to,
Temu. I just like, okay, I'm gone. I'm like,
for those of you who just tuned in, we're trying to get TC onto the Chinese websites to order stuff.
I just thought of another little story. While I think of them, they'll come up. As I mentioned before, for a while there, I worked in the mothball fleet, which has hundreds of ships, and they're there for different reasons, either to be scrapped or sold or whatever. Well, one of these ships, which is now a museum, a buddy of mine was down there working in the bilge, so to speak, keeping it from having a water leak. He was down there by himself. When we went on these ships, and this was a destroyer, we went on by ourselves. And he was down there working by himself, playing with whatever tools he had. Next thing he knew, someone threw a toolbox at him. He said, who's throwing a toolbox? Who's here? No answer. He said, somebody threw the toolbox at me and almost hit me. Who is here? No answer. He got up. He searched around the ship. He couldn't find anybody. When he went back to the office, he said, look, I was down here fixing this leak in the bilge. Somebody threw a toolbox at me. What's going on? And they said, which boat were you on? They said, the Sullivans. Oh, the Sullivans is haunted. And that's what they told him. I'm not saying it happened. I'm saying that's what they told him. The Sullivans is a haunted ship. And then I heard many, many stories later on after it became a museum of people encountering ghostly figures on the Sullivans. So
That's
I think
my
I
story.
think you're crazy if you
That's
don't believe
crazy.
in hauntings. Seriously.
I used to work
I-
on the Queen Mary.
And for those who don't know, the Sullivans were the 5 brothers who all died on one ship in World War II.
And they were
It was
all from Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
AVA, you worked on the Queen Mary?
Yeah,
No,
the security guard.
no. Do not twist this story, AVA. You worked with a guy that went by Queen Mary. That's
Yeah.
totally different than working on a boat. So
Oh man, you're killing me.
You tell TC's not a Navy guy. That's not a boat. That's a ship.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything when I was working there, but I heard a lot of crazy sounds and voices. That would be a different show.
When I was at
I
Quantico,
love the topic. I
had to-
100% love the topic of the preternatural.
when I was at Quantico, I had to clean and maintain the cemeteries because Quantico has a lot of cemeteries because as families would die, they would leave land to the government, and that's how Quantico grew. So there's all these family plots, and I had to go and mow and weed whack and do all this stuff. And at one that I knew to be an Indian burial ground, I got shoved from behind.
Yeah, I believe it. The only
Does that
I can say, like when I was on the Queen Mary, I heard voices. Could have been in my head, but a lot of moaning. There was the elevator that we had to use that didn't, the old like cargo elevators that have the accordion gate.
Don't.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the thing that you pull and then.
Yeah, it was an old one, but as the floors went by, it felt like somebody was looking at you.
If you're hearing moaning, maybe it was more of a wet dream.
Yeah, I was on the water. Probably got splashed. They got the Scorpion Soviet submarine out there too. That thing is haunted for sure.
Brett, can I talk about what you just sent me? Because people don't understand the military, and it's just such a funny question. But I want your okay if I can.
No, I think I just think you're either overconfident in the amount of wisdom that you have or knowledge that you have, or you're just absolutely crazy if you do not believe in preternatural or hauntings. But that doesn't mean everybody has to have the same perspective on what a haunting is. So there is a well established now theory about hauntings that's referred to as stone tape theory. Stone as in STONE, and then tape as in TAPE. That basically posits that hauntings aren't necessarily the spirits of people who have refused to move on, but that because of the way electromagnetic ley lines work across the world, and everybody knows this is how we know about magnets and why magnets work the way they work and compasses work the way they work. There are electromagnetic lines that run all throughout the earth, and that exists in the minerals. And so there are areas where the mineral content. Who's snoring? Is that you, AVA? Are you snoring?
No, I'm tuned in.
There are the way these magnetic friendly minerals work is that they actually capture either moments of intense output, or they record things that are happening frequently. So you'll hear from people like, I live in a house where every morning I get up and all the cupboards in the kitchen are open. And I know people who don't believe in the supernatural natural at all. And that's why I say preternatural versus supernatural. Normally it just means it's something we don't understand. They'll say at least 3 times a week I'll come downstairs and every cabinet in my kitchen is open. And they've tried to explain it away as somebody not, closing them the night before, kids getting up in the middle of the night, and they'll run around and ask everybody, why did you do that? And everybody's like, what are you talking about? I didn't do that.
You need a security camera.
And then they go to security cameras, and then they're really left because they're like, all of a sudden the cabinet's all open. And the people who hold the stone tape theory or are proponents of stone tape theory will say, well, depending on the age of the house, you may or may not be dealing with activity that was common in that place, especially if you live in a home that, that's from the early 1900s or before, that maybe had servants who would come in at a particular time of the morning to get the day going, start the stove, open up cabinets, and that just is recorded in the environment. And those cabinets being open on a regular basis is just that energy building up and being released, and the cabinet opens because that's what the environment remembers in that area. And they talk about it. There's a case of a woman who was raped and murdered in a stairwell in New York City. And I've heard the audio on video, and if I can find it, I will. This every year on the anniversary of this woman's rape and murder, you at the time that they believe she was murdered, you can go into the stairwell and record the sounds of her screaming for help.
Well,
And-
I heard a story that kind of like might lay right into what you're talking about. It's a little different, but it might, yeah, they might overlap. I'm trying not to use that word, but I heard a story that it's more of realities overlapping. Like we have
Parallel dimension.
reality, someone else is in another reality, and there's a bleed over from their reality to yours. I'm not a genius. I can't make up.
Well,
You know,
quantum physics talks about not parallel dimensions like AVA said, but quantum physics talks about a multiverse existence where we all run on these what appear to be parallel tracks that have branches that break off of them based on decisions that are made, and there are moments where they can overlap. And
That's basically what I'm saying.
And we also have to remember as well that we think of time in a linear sense because we don't have a way to consider time as anything but linear. Just because of the way we live. We live in a very linear perspective. But time is not linear. Time conceptually and according to quantum physics, time is not just this linear beginning and end. Time is outside of that linear process. And so you can even get time slips. And there are reputable people out there who will talk about time slips where they'll walk out of their house, turn a corner, and they'll be like, I was in my downtown area and I know what my downtown looks like, and you're all of a sudden walking through the 1910s in your downtown, and you recognize the buildings, but you don't recognize the clothing. You don't recognize,
Mr. Torrance, you've always been the caretaker.
Yeah, always been the caretaker. But it's
If I could put time in a bottle,
My wife and children became insolent. I had to correct them, sir.
George.
there's a few stories on YouTube about that. Actually, I saw one just the other day where they said some man appeared in the middle of Times Square in 19th century clothing, and he started freaking out, ran out in the street, and got killed. And nobody knows who he is or where he came from. He just appeared out of nowhere.
Have I ever been? I have had an encounter with a person that I know is demon possessed. I just know it for a fact. Several of them.
I've got a question. When we brought up the quantum physics part, what do you think about the Hadron Collider and its possibilities of ripping a time-space hole?
Are you talking about in CERN?
Yes. Well, I know that
Need
China has
Elon
one as well.
for a conversation.
I would never say that we couldn't develop the technology to be able to do something like create a wormhole, like, because that's basically what people are afraid of, is that they're going to create a wormhole, or even go so far as to create some sort of black hole. And I mean, and we know
That's what I'm concerned about.
black holes are a reality. We do see the existence of black holes in the universe. We do see that there are these places. out there that when you look at them with a telescope or a magnetic telescope, you can observe light being pulled, which seems almost impossible when you consider that light is not doesn't have substance. Light has no substance. It doesn't and it never stops existing. We see that, like you point a flashlight out into the sky and you might not be able to see that light or past where that light appears to end, but that light just continues to go on forever. Light does not stop existing. And so when you see a star, in our sun is a tiny star in comparison to other stars that are out there. You could see these massive stars putting off a massive amount of light, and you get a few thousand light years away, and all of a sudden that light just gets sucked into a hole and disappears. And they're like, what is that? Well, that's a black hole. And so the idea of the Large Hadron Collider being able to create a black hole, I'm not going to say we could never get there, but I do think we're monkeying around with things that we shouldn't be monkeying around with. And we have to ask ourselves, why are we
As far as
interested
what's going either
in there?
inside or on the other side of a black hole, everything is just guesswork.
Well, there is a current hypothesis that we are living in a black hole. Our universe is in a black hole.
My love life is in a black hole, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, what Dr. Sean Mary is saying, diffuses in space because of matter. Right, it gets absorbed, but it doesn't. The light itself is absorbed, but light doesn't cease to exist, which is why it reflects. It can go on if there's nothing in its path to absorb it. So it's not like plasma. It's just like the existence of antimatter. Everybody talked about it for a long time, but nobody believed it. And now we know that there is antimatter. There's matter and antimatter. It's not just a thing from DC comic books.
And dark oxygen is a thing.
Dark oxygen?
Yes. It's I'll send you a link to it. It's a lot to explain.
But isn't this just things that we've named that? We don't
No,
know
these
if
are
it's
recent
actually
discovery.
what you say it is. I'm talking about
Like-
matter, antimatter, all of it. It's just that's what we've named it. We don't know that that's exactly what it is.
Well, I mean, antimatter is what it is because of its properties in comparison to what we call matter. It's just like the idea that all life must be carbon-based. Right? So people believe like all life on Earth is carbon-based. It's demonstrably true. We cannot find anything that is not carbon-based that's living, but not all carbon obviously is living. And so the question remains is if all carbon, oh boy, this is a weird conversation for Veteran Nation Live. If all life on Earth is carbon-based, then is all the carbon in the world potential life, or is it all left over when life dies? And so
You could be in another solar system and everything is sulfur based. You don't
well,
know.
and there is a lot of within quantum physics, and even now we're starting to see people talk about things like quantum biology. We're starting to get people to talk about silicone-based life, or not silicone, but silicon-based life. Skipper has silicone-based life behind him. So there's just it's so like I was making comments the other day. I think it might have been in one of Skipper's chats, but they were talking about sports, pro sports.
My
especially.
ex-wife is going to be injected with silicone.
Well, it probably will also be injected with formaldehyde because no woman will marry you at this point unless she's dead.
This program is brought to you by
Yes.
PBS.
But we were talking about sports the other day, and I had made the comparison, especially with pro sports in the United States, as really just the Colosseum of ancient Rome. And I would tell people, like, there's so much more interesting and entertaining stuff out there than all the stuff that passes for entertainment. And if you're not looking into things like quantum physics, I'm not saying you have to go and get your degree in quantum physics, but there are so many quantum physicists.
Damn, I was planning on
And,
doing that.
well, at your age, you better get in a hurry, Ed. But there's so many interesting things out there that you would be so surprised at how much you can learn about just the world around you if you're willing to look into them and not say things like, well, I don't believe in that. Because sometimes your belief in something or disbelief in something doesn't matter. It doesn't disprove the reality. And look at the number of years that people spent denying the existence of what we call, euphemistically refer to as UFOs. And now we're at a position where even the government can't say no anymore. They have to say, okay, there's this thing happening. We can't tell you what it is, but there is a thing happening that is not just us doing research. Because, for the longest time, anytime somebody would spot an unidentified aerial phenomenon, as they like to call them now, they'd go, oh, that was a government weather balloon, or that was an experimental aircraft. And now they're like, yeah, there are things out there. And reputable pilots, like military pilots, commercial pilots, are coming out and saying stuff like, no, yeah, there are UFOs. I've experienced them. I've seen them.
Astronauts.
Astronauts have said things. And
Yeah,
if you've never watched the movie to get a feel for just how deep this goes, there is a movie called Fire in the Sky from the mid-90s.
Love it.
And it is a phenomenal study in how far the government will go to convince people that things like UFOs and whatnot could possibly exist. And it's a great study. And where are the white women? We found one.
PC, I think that you and I should do a segment every now and then on the unexplained and other natural.
We'd spend most of our time trying to figure out Skipper.
Tinfoil hat stream. I am so down.
I think me and AVA should drive up and go camping and try to find Bigfoot.
I think
I'll
you
be
should
right
go out
behind
to
you.
Joshua. I think you should just go out into Joshua Tree, because Joshua Tree has its own lore about a Bigfoot type creature in Joshua Tree. It's got people
I do know they
scared
have
to
work
death.
In my opinion about the Bigfoot, I think, just real quick, I think that, how do I explain it? All the hair is kind of like an environmental suit. And there's a little alien on the inside. Like Men in Black when they pop open the head.
I think that's
They-
where
they've got
BBB is hiding.
What did I'm sorry? Put that. Get yourself trained on jurisprudence and litigation, filing declaration of rights suits.
So
I
do have a
agree with Dr. Barry.
I do have a question for the chat, and you can put your answers in here. This is a very military question, and I was asked it by Brett Granger, who is retired military. He had asked me, just while we were doing the show, could I get my hands on a donkey dick? So, please put in the chat what you think
Wait,
he's asking
what?
me.
If you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, if you are in the military, you know. But Put it in the comments what you think me trying to get my
Tijuana.
hand on a donkey dick means.
Tijuana. Tijuana has plenty of them.
I'm sure they do.
There's a lot of farms in Tennessee.
Oh man.
They must know I was going to Mexico and think I'm going to a donkey show.
Well, as long as you're the one not doing the quarters, we'll be good.
So,
Yep. Dr. Barry
Skipper,
got
tell
it.
me about this. Tell me about this cruise you were talking about.
So we looked into the Margaritaville cruise. They do Heroes Set Sail. And we were talking about doing that. And what we found out is what Margaritaville, they've changed it. What they do is when they have a cruise and there's last minute rooms available, they give them free to veterans. So if we do a cruise, the chances of us having enough of those for us all to attend is going to be low. But I've talked to the Grangers and I've also talked to the Huffs, and we're looking at doing a cruise in February. We haven't decided on one yet. We still need to talk. But once we do, those who want to go will be invited. In general, we're looking at out of Tampa. Don't know if that's where it's going to be for sure.
Well, if it is, you saw what I texted you. I do have a guest room for whoever needs it.
I don't know. With some of the stories you tell, I don't know if we're
Well,
comfortable sending any of our people to be a guest in your house right now, Ed. That might be a little scary.
Well, I was talking about Skipper, but that's okay.
The Grangers might need somewhere to put their RV, because I think they're going to RV
That's
down.
there you go. That's fine
Oh.
too.
Are Brett and Therese
Because,
going to put me in their suitcase?
The Tampa
How
boat
they need a
area
ride
is
to
not
Tampa?
15 miles from my house, so the cruise ships leave about 15 miles from my house.
There you go.
Speaking of the Huffs,
AVA does not know what snipe hunting is.
Nope.
okay, well maybe it's the other way around then.
All I remember is that trying to hunt the purple blue yak.
You used to go snipe hunting in the Boy Scouts.
We are trying to get a large group if we do this, Nancy. We're open to various cruise lines, but Margaritaville does a 20% off veteran discount, so that's a pretty significant one off the bat. But if we can get a big enough group, we might be able to get a bigger discount through another cruise line.
Well, also, I put one together once, and every 10th room, depending on what kind of rooms you got, like if you got 10 staterooms with balcony, then they would give you a free stateroom with a balcony. If you got 10 inside cabins, they would give you a free inside cabin, and so on.
I was just about to ask, isn't everyone a balcony, or are there internal rooms as well?
Oh, there's inside
internal
rooms, there's phone booth rooms.
Those tend to be cheaper, too.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with them. There's just no windows.
And here's the other thing. Especially with us planning, right now it's notionally planned for February. So if you said, yeah, I want to go on the cruise, and we find out the internal cabin is $500, just grabbing a thing, and then you pay the $500 and decide, no, I want to upgrade, I've got another $400, you can absolutely upgrade to an exterior or a balcony or something.
Yeah, I used to do travel as a side thing, as a side hustle when I first retired.
Georgie wants to hide in someone's bags so she can.
No, I will pay my way to get on the ship. I just need a way to the ship.
You can sit on the rudder.
We put together a cruise one time, and we had, just for my neighborhood, I'm not talking about my high school I'm not talking about my town or my neighborhood. All the people that hung out together back in the day. 44 of us came. It was the best reunion I ever went to.
There were
Best reunion.
40. There were 44 people alive when you were a kid.
Oh,
And most of them are still alive today. Thank you very much.
I'm trying to figure out where TC has room talking about anybody being old.
Yeah. His goatee is as gray as
Yeah.
mine.
Ed's still got me by 20 years.
You just sit over there and suck your bottle and hush. Leave Ed alone.
I will pick on
Thank you, Georgie.
Ed all I want. Don't you thank you, Georgie. Her.
Leave my Ed alone.
She's a non-vet sitting on a vet panel. Jeez. Next thing you know, you're
Shut
going to
up.
bring somebody in from the Space Force.
well, we know
Yes.
that they don't have any veterans.
You're the one that
Those
asked
who
for
wish to
somebody
go
with
will
daddy
need a
issues, and
passport.
I appeared.
So, just out of what have to yes, you have to have a passport. I found that out. So, just out of curiosity, since Georgie's here,
Oh, dear.
did everybody enjoy last week's live cooking stream?
Oh, okay. Even I took a nap during the stream.
No, that was pretty cool. I liked it.
So,
She was making fun of me this morning because I was making blubbery muffins.
I missed that. Was that
I didn't
Was that
watch
a-
it because I do my own cooking.
a coffee with Skipper thing or?
No, it was just we were in the Discord
Oh.
talking, and yeah, I was making blueberry muffins, and I kept calling, "Oh, they smell like blubberries."
So I was just curious if everybody enjoyed the cooking stream because we are interested in doing another one, and I already have
Yeah, put a 1 in the chat if you enjoyed it.
put a
I did
2 in the
not
chat
enjoy
if
the
you
homework.
which you failed, by the way.
Yeah, I fell asleep and lost half of what you said.
You said you squirreled. You never said anything about falling asleep, but you know.
Well, I was
And the
trying to be
truth comes
nice.
out.
So, well, then you don't have to be part of the next one. Then that's fine. I mean, it wasn't like you contributed anything.
The only hard part is just cooking for myself. I always end up cooking too much and giving it to the neighbors.
Oh, who is this Timu crew spreading filthy lies?
That part, Dwayne.
Coop does not stand a chance because he can't use Mama Coop because Mama Coop does all his tasting, and without a taster, he's dead in the water. He can't compete without a taster.
Even the dog called bullshit.
No, I agree. It is bullshit that anybody would think that Coop couldn't beat me. But
Bless your
there's
heart.
no way to test that because I'm not going to Florida and he's damn sure not coming to Minnesota. So
TC, we should have an MRE cook-off.
that's harder than people think because people get very creative with MREs.
Yes,
Military members and their creativity with MREs rivals prison cooking and people who are locked up in jail and detention centers and prisons are incredibly creative. I have seen some really good food get made with some of the worst products you could possibly think of because they get so bored with their options that there's actually you could buy now jailhouse cookbooks that teach you how to make like jailhouse burritos, jailhouse nachos, jailhouse cakes with
I was going to say, it's amazing what they can do with Doritos and Fritos.
yeah, you just sometimes almost 13 years of watching detainees cook, and I don't mean meth. It's an incredibly. I used to tell them, man, if you could put this much time if you could put this much time into figuring out how to make a really good burrito in jail, imagine what would happen if you would apply yourself to living on the outside. And they'd be like, hey, now that I'm sober, that makes a lot of sense. So, but yeah, if you guys enjoyed it, I already have something planned out. I owe Skipper a written recipe for what we did last week, but honestly, if you're interested in learning what I did last week, just watch the video. Because that's the thing. I told Georgie this. I don't really know what I'm making most of the time until I go to the store, because I buy everything on the spot. I don't go to the store with something in mind. I go to the store. I go to the store to see what's available, and I try to buy fresh, and I plan my menu around what's available, which is the way most cooking should be done. And that's why we have such a problem with people being unhealthy, is they just buy a massive amount of prepackaged things like Jiffy cornbread, you morons.
Blech.
Hey, Skipper, didn't you mention something about a veteran cookbook?
I do have some recipes, and yeah, I want to put them into a Veteran Nation cookbook that I can then put up on Amazon and sell.
Oh, that'd be fun to do.
Yeah.
I've got some recipes. I just have to spend the time and like take them from where I have them and like write stuff about it.
Southern cooking is better than whatever TC cook. Mismatch Menace, you have no idea what you're talking about. The whole problem, TC sucks dried gravy. That's nice, Georgie.
I got a slight change of subject here. I just found out the guy who lives across the street from me, he's a chef. He's a very good chef. And his job is he goes around the country during the week to different companies like Intel, Google, Ford, whoever. And he advises them on how to upgrade their commissaries for their employees. Lately, the past few weeks, I haven't seen him at all. So I ran into him finally yesterday, and I said, Mike, what are you doing? What's going on? He says, you wouldn't believe how the economy's going. He says, the companies that have a factory or whatever, they're opening them up, and they're expanding their commissaries. Those that have an old place that they've closed down, they're renovating, and they're expanding their commissaries. Those that don't have a place at all, they're building a place, and they're going to get new commissaries. He says this economy thing that everybody's wondering about whether we're doing real good or not. Well, according to him, it's exploding. And the way he finds out is how they're all working on getting their commissaries up and running for the employees. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
Well, not just the economy, but just the quality of food and stuff that's out there in the stores now. People are just fed up. That's like one of our local tap houses down here has switched over to beef tallow in their fryers. They've gotten rid of all the seed oil for deep fat frying. They're doing beef tallow, and the food, the fried food, just fries alone, completely different quality of food. So if you're still using seed oils, so if you're buying vegetable oil to cook with, stop. One, it's incredibly unhealthy for you. Two, switching over to something that is not a seed oil, you will be absolutely floored at how much better your food is, even if you're not used to cooking. So
Well, it
don't use
depends on
seed
what I'm
oils
cooking. I either use olive oil or canola oil, one or the other.
Olive oil, avocado oil. Avocado oil has a better smoke point on it, so it's very good. Love it.
I like cooking with bacon grease.
Yeah, bacon grease is phenomenal. Bacon grease is phenomenal to cook with. I love to use bacon grease to make roux for gravies and soups.
Mm.
It's the only way I can eat liver is if you cook it in bacon grease.
Yeah, the best way to prepare liver is to take it out of whatever packaging it's in and then throw it in the trash.
Yeah,
I mostly cook it off and give it to the chickens is what I do. So they'll eat anything. So
I'm the same way with Brussels sprouts.
as I am with Brussels sprouts. When I was a kid, I almost choked to death on Brussels sprouts. I can't even look at them anymore.
I did tell Skipper, and I know we're going on an hour and a half here, but I did tell Skipper before we started that not only did I want to give Skipper a chance to talk about the Harvey Milk situation, by the way, which is we're all very happy that Harvey Milk was renamed, not Harvey Milk himself. I don't care what happens to Harvey Milk.
The man was a perv.
Johnny Martinez. I don't know where he came from, but that's an interesting question. But I did want to, because I know that we've talked a little bit about some of the continuing warfare that's going on in the world, which is really important for veterans. And I know that Skipper and AVA and I are fully on board with the Defend the Guard legislation that's going around. It's in all 50 states now, and it's really starting to make some headway in Arizona, Montana, for sure, are seeing some success with it. But we are, whether we like it or not, we might be seeing peace having apparently been arrived at between Iran and Israel, which ultimately means between Iran and the United States, because there's no war that Israel fights that the United States doesn't also end up fighting. But people have asked some questions because of some of my positions on these things, and I want everybody to understand my opposition to war has nothing to do with not loving the military, loving active duty and reservists and guard. And it has absolutely nothing to do with not respecting and loving veterans. My opposition to war, I don't care who's president. Like, if you were opposed to bombing because Obama and Biden did it, you should be opposed to bombing when Trump does it. If you were opposed to bombing when Bush and Clinton did it, you should be opposed to bombing when Trump does it. You don't get to pick and choose which bombings are okay just because you happen to like the president that's in charge at the time. That's not how this works. And one of the things that I've heard people say in response to some of the things I've said here on the show and some of the things that I've said on my own platform is, well, Iran's been killing American soldiers for 30 years, 40 years. They've been attacking American civilians since 1979. And they chant death to America, death to Israel. And I want you guys to understand that this is why Defend the Guard and Bring the Troops Home as movements are incredibly important. American service members' lives would not be at risk if the United States would stop practicing expansionism for itself and for geopolitical Zionist Israel. The reason why troops are in the Middle East still to this day are because the United States has violated everything. When I say the United States, I'm not talking about we, the people. I'm talking about the state, United States, State Department, and federal government has violated everything that the founding fathers believed in. It is foundationally the belief of the founders that we should not be going around the world chasing monsters to destroy, because in the process we will create our own monsters. And that's what we did in Iran. A lot of people who talk about Iran attacking American troops in the Middle East do not understand that up until
Oh,
19
Baba.
I'm up until 1953, Iran and the United States and Israel were on very good relations and very good relationship. And it was in 1953 that the Eisenhower administration, Dwight D. Eisenhower, who warned us about the rising power of the military industrial complex, in 1953, the Eisenhower administration, cooperating with Great Britain, what remained of the British Empire, cooperated in overthrowing a very popular, moderate Iranian nationalist prime minister in an operation called Operation Ajax. They intentionally overthrew this prime minister and then backed the Shah because the Shah was pro-America and pro-Israel. And the reason they wanted the prime minister overthrown is because the prime minister said, no, Iranian oil and products deserve to belong to the Iranian people. And they should be benefiting from the sale of those products because at the time, Great Britain was taking 85 to 95% of the profits coming out of Iran, keeping that, and then giving a pittance back to the Iranian people to live on. And the prime minister said no more. And that pissed off the Brits, and therefore the United States got pissed off with them. And they said, we got to get rid of this guy. We need somebody that's not an Iranian nationalist. They backed the Shah, who, contrary to all these talks about how wonderful life was in Iran under the Shah, is not true. The only people that benefited from that life were the Shah's allies. And the Shah was allied with Israel. He did missions, or he did work and allowed Mossad to work in Iran to target Iranian nationalists, not Iranian Islamic extremists, but Iranian nationalists who said Iran for Iran. Now, why is it that it's okay for Israel to be a nationalist country? Benjamin Netanyahu's own words in the last few weeks is that Israel is a country for Jews. We can have a country for Jews, but Iranians cannot have an Iranian country. Palestinians cannot have a land of their own. And what this broke down to was they wanted a pro-American structure in Iran to continue to make money off of the Iranian natural resources. And they weren't about to allow anybody other than the Shah to be in power. And the Shah built his secret police. They were not Islamists. He built his secret police and attacked his enemies, made life miserable in Iran for people who did not support him. There was no active rebellion, and it was only when the Islamic Revolution began to take place, and then they eventually grew in power because the people were being so mistreated and so oppressed by the tyrant that was the Shah, that they finally joined the Iranian Islamic Shiite fundamentalist and took part in overthrowing the Shah, exiled the Shah, and that's when the chance of death to America started. Because the United States does what it always does, and it fucks up every single country it gets involved in. Every single country. To the point where we have to leave troops behind to manage it, and that's what keeps our troops in harm's way. In every single country we've been involved in, period, since the end of World War II. And even look at the state that Germany is in today. Look at the state of every European country after the end of World War II. We create our monsters, and then we end up fighting our monsters when we meddle in their affairs. We overthrew the democratically elected prime minister of Ukraine. And now we're spending billions of dollars funding, still under Trump, funding Ukraine's unwinnable war against Russia. And we're just fortunate that Russia has maintained some semblance of civility, because Russia could roll over Ukraine tomorrow if it wanted to. So for anybody to say, well, Iran can't have nuclear weapons. Israel's got nuclear weapons, which historically were stolen from the United States. Fact, not speculation.
For the record, I don't think anyone should have
I agree,
nuclear
no one
weapons.
should. But there's only
Anybody.
one country in the world that's ever dropped a nuclear bomb. And that was us.
Are you going to finish something? Okay.
And somehow we have the moral high ground to tell Iran, no, you can't have what we let Israel have. And I know that the vast majority of people who watch Veteran Nation I voted for Trump. But there comes a time
Again,
where you have to say, we have to stop meddling in other countries' businesses. Because that's why we keep having troops deployed in places like Syria.
is that meddling, or was that Israel asking for support from their allies, and we're not the only country that was going to step up and help
We were the
them?
only country that could do what Israel wants done. Nobody else had the ordinance to do what Israel wanted done. And there again, what right does the United States government have in dictating to a sovereign country who can and cannot have what? Why aren't we bombing North Korea? They have nukes. Why aren't we bombing Russia? They have nukes. Why aren't we bombing?
Because they're not bombing the Holy Land. That's why.
Did Iran just randomly start bombing Israel, or did they start bombing Israel when Israel was attacking other countries? Israel attacked other countries unprovoked. Israel attacked Syria. Israel attacked Lebanon. Israel attacked Yemen. Israel attacks and attacks and attacks and attacks and attacks unprovoked. And you have to go and look into the Greater Israel Plan, which is Israeli expansion. They want to own that region.
But Israel has signed peace treaties with former enemies. And Iran...
Israel has signed peace treaties with former enemies that we pay billions of dollars to every year to sign those peace treaties. Yeah.
We have
Abraham
not...
Accord. No, we pay Saudi Arabia. We pay Egypt billions of dollars a year to stay in peace treaties with Israel.
We pay Jordan?
Yes. We pay Jordan too. And we overthrow and we pay to overthrow countries like Libya and Syria. We pay that. ISIS was paid and funded by Israel and by the United States to go and overthrow Syria and Libya. We provided the weaponry that ISIS used to overthrow those countries. And then we bombed them in support of ISIS. When Trump...
Oh, wait, when the hell did we ever support ISIS?
When they overthrew Syria and Libya. We gave them the weaponry and the support. We promised air support to them to overthrow Syria.
Who is
the United States government? And Israel.
Who was in office at the time?
And Israel. And that's what puts American troops' lives at risk. We have American troops now in Syria, occupying Syria. And if Israel wants to be at peace, then Israel needs to learn to fight its own battles. Because the reason Israel can get away with the things that it's doing is because the United States is constantly standing behind it with like a rotten little short guy with a short guy attitude drunk in a bar.
Why you got to talk about a short guy?
Because anybody who's ever been to the bar with a short guy knows it's the short guy that starts all the fucking fights. and that's what I'm getting at. Like, I'm not
Short guy.
Iran's not our ally. They're not a good country right now. I'm not arguing that. But neither is Israel. Israel is not the good country right now. They're not the good guy in the Middle Eastern bloc. They're just not.
Honestly, we should just leave the Middle East alone.
Exactly.
And let
That's
them
my
do what they
point. Let's
do.
just get out of it.
They're gonna kill each other. Let them kill each other and leave us out of it. But at the same time,
Go ahead, finish your thought.
there needs to be peace.
Sure, but why is that our responsibility? Are you making paracord, Skipper?
You tell me. Why is it America's job to babysit any of these fucking countries?
There you go.
I'm following the discussion, but I am making a keychain.
Oh, I thought you were making a paracord IUD.
Coop would be very happy with me right now.
That's my point. Is that there again? I would challenge everybody to go look up.
I talked to you.
Wesley, I would suggest that everybody go listen. Skipper could probably find it in about 2 seconds and play it. Wesley Clark's 7 Countries in 5 Years. No, Nancy. Yeah, Iran took 66 American hostages in 1979, which was 26 years after the United States overthrew their prime minister and basically installed the Shah as the tyrant. So was it good of Iran to take 66 American hostages and hold the embassy for 464 days or whatever it came down to? No, that wasn't good.
444.
444, yes, thank you. No, that wasn't good, but it didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened because we provoked them. And then we went on to pay Saddam Hussein to make war on Iran after that. We paid Saddam Hussein to make war on Iran. We paid Saddam Hussein to develop nuclear weapons, or not nuclear weapons, to develop chemical weapons that he used on Iranian military forces and Iranian civilians. But then, when Saddam Hussein stopped obeying his masters in the United States and then got into an oil drilling conflict with Kuwait, because Kuwait was drilling at a diagonal under the Iraqi soil and taking their oil from diagonal drilling, and Saddam Hussein said, hey, hold on a second, that's my fucking oil. He invaded. And then what happened? They told us a bunch of lies about what was happening in Kuwait. Oh, they're smashing babies against the wall. Iraqi soldiers are breaking into nurseries and smashing babies against the wall. Never happened. It was a lie.
You know, Skipper, my former hostage friend should be listening to this.
Yeah, Ed has a friend who was a hostage, and we've been in talks. We want to have him on the show. He's not available for the next couple weeks, but I think it'll be a great discussion when we can have him on.
And like I said, I don't defend what Iran did. But what I want people to start waking up to is, really, since the end of World War II, the United States has not been the good guy in the world. The United States has been interfering in the affairs of multiple countries all over the world.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, because we just totally just step up and take over. That's 9 times out of 10, they're asking for help.
No, that's not true. That's not true. You cannot name a country that we've gotten involved in that's asked for help that the United States hasn't also interfered with prior to that. Or we've made the excuse that it's to stop the spread of communism. It's to stop the spread of fascism. It's to stop the spread of whatever it is that we've determined is our job to stop.
I just find it funny how
I thought we
all
were
these
the
people on
fascists.
the left compared Trump to Hitler for 4 years,
Not
8
me.
years, whatever.
I'm
it
not
was.
talking about.
And now because he's defending the Jews, he's a Zionist. Which is it?
I
Pick a
thought we
side.
were the fascists.
Right?
Madam Mayor, I appreciate you saying you're not sure where he gets his information, but he's way off course. I'll devastate you in a debate on this. You have no way to keep up with me on this.
Behave.
I am behaving. That's a very genuine offer. I'm more than happy.
This is literally the chaos you caused in my server. Please stop.
I'm not. That's why I'm not in your server anymore. I'm 100% right.
Because you caused chaos.
No, I bring.
And not the
I
fun
bring
kind
truth.
of chaos.
Everybody who loves Trump loves truth, right? I bring truth. I can back up historically with documents everything that I'm saying. Everything I'm saying.
And Mike's just over there with a shit-eating grin on his face.
We are
I
not
made
the
a-
good guys.
I made a keychain.
The people of the United States aren't responsible for this, other than we keep voting for people who do these things. No matter who you vote for, you get John McCain. No matter who you vote for, you get a warmonger.
That's funny because from what I've seen, Trump's doing exactly.
Has he
what
ended
we
the war
hired
in
him to do.
Ukraine like he promised?
Well, that war is over.
No, it's not.
Russia
We're
won.
still sending billions of dollars. They're still fighting. They're still fighting.
I think we need to buy a new soapbox.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm sick and fucking tired of American troops being in the Middle East and being in harm's way. Why are American troops in Syria? Why? Why are American troops on ships in the Persian Gulf right now? Why? What good? What interest does it have for us? And when I mean interest, what does it do for the homeland? Why? Why are there almost 1,000 United States military bases around the world, manned by American soldiers, airmen?
Keeps the oil flowing.
We don't need the oil from the rest of the world. We have the largest supply of oil untapped in the world underneath the United States.
Yes, but there's certain factions in this country that won't let us tap it.
Now, if we spent less time worrying about what we have going on and outside of the domestic regions, maybe we could settle something here. But everybody in Congress, outside of a handful of people, is more interested in interfering in the world's affairs. This is a very thing that we were told not to allow happen. Do not get into entangled alliances with other countries. That's what our founding fathers said. Do not allow yourselves to get into entangling alliances with other countries. And this is why we have been seeing American service members die every year since the end of World War II. Because our servants have forgotten their place. We are the masters, and we should be demanding that they come home.
Dum 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 dum.
They're all gonna laugh at you!
I have so much fun doing this. Have
Ain't nobody got time for that.
we could end up having a debate on here in the coming weeks.
Well, we
I'm
should.
here for it. I am here for
I'll
it.
take on anybody you bring. I'll take on anybody. I'll take on 8 anybodies. I'll stand alone. I don't care if anybody likes me or not. I don't care if people report my channel or stop subscribing to my channel. I don't care if they stop subscribing to this.
Hey now.
Of course you don't. You're not the one running it.
Or if they get so pissed that they tell Skipper they won't watch anymore if he keeps me around. I'll leave. I don't give a fuck.
Hey,
I'm serious. I don't care. I'm so right on this that I don't care if I have to leave so Skipper can keep his channel. I'll leave. I don't care.
He's gonna shut us all
you
down.
know what, Brett? You're not wrong.
No, we're not
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
willing to learn.
No matter how I felt about something, no matter how much I felt I was right, I've never always said that I am right, period. That's not in my vocabulary. There's always room for other opinions.
Sure, you could bring your opinions. You can always bring your opinions. Doesn't mean your opinions can't be destroyed. Not just you, Ed. I mean other people.
I understand that.
I was in the same boat as all of these people for a very long time. I would wave an Israeli flag because they are the right people. They are God's chosen people.
I don't think they're
Like-
the right people, or I wouldn't even use the term God's chosen people. I would say they are the less wrong in the region. That's how I
Thank
would.
you.
It's
Less
it's
wrong
the
as they
land
kill
that is
as they kill
protected.
thousands upon thousands
it's
of
the Holy
infants and
Land.
children and women who are not combatants. Less wrong.
Yeah, but that's because the Palestinians use
Oh,
them.
bullshit.
Fuck, man, I'm
Bullshit.
They do.
No, they don't.
do.
The Palestinians didn't make that war. Hamas made that war. And
The West
Benjamin
Bank-
Netanyahu and the Likud.
Hamas is also one of the ones that attacked Israel.
The
yeah,
Fatah
and Benjamin
Party,
Netanyahu and Likud built Hamas. Hamas was
the
not built
Fatah
by
Party
Iran.
is by and large peaceful with Israel, and they live in the West Bank. It's Gaza that is controlled by Hamas. That has always been a problem.
Right. Gaza is controlled by Hamas, which was put into power by Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud party because they could control them, and they had a substance that to get to them, which was to promise them money and support if everybody would
was-
vote for them.
In the 1980s, when they were fighting the PLO, correct?
Yes.
But it got taken over by the
I'm gonna have
same
to get
group
my
who
cast iron skillet
created the
on.
Black September movement.
Once again, Israel, what they did doesn't, it matters, but they're only in the position they're in because the Likud party and people like Benjamin Netanyahu backed them in the election 25 years ago.
The Black September movement is not viewed favorably by any of the countries in the region because they tried to overthrow King Hussein of Jordan. And that's why Egypt wants nothing to do with them. Back when Lebanon hadn't a working state, Lebanon wanted nothing to do with them. Saudi Arabia wants nothing to do with them. The only place that wants anything to do with Hamas is Hezbollah, which is Iran.
I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing that Iran doesn't have fingers in things, but Israel does too. Israel has its fingers in all
They do.
sorts of things.
They do. But
They fund terrorism. Israel was the first country to practice terrorism in the Middle East.
Israel's not the one threatening to get a nuclear weapon and use it.
That part.
They have threatened to use the nukes. They launched fighters with nukes
in defense.
in the 6 Days
Israel-
War.
Israel does want peace. They've signed many peace treaties with many of their neighbors that were
They
former-
want expansion. They want the
If
Greater
I
Israel
recall,
project.
this most recent one, after they both agreed to peace, Iran shot a fucking
No.
bomb over there.
That's
I'm
not
going
what
to
happened.
disagree with you, TC, as it applies to expansion, because Israel took over the Sinai Peninsula. They took it from Egypt in war, conquered it, gave it back in the name of peace. Israel was willing to agree to the 1970 or 1947 peace plan put forth by the League of Nations, where Jerusalem would have been split between Israel and Palestine and would have been controlled by the League of Nations.
Why is Israel occupying Syria right now? And they've said they will.
Brett asked, did anybody get an answer about the donkey dick?
We did get an answer. Someone got it right. Dr. Barry got it right.
Yankees handed me a cast iron skillet. I wonder if it's to smack TC with.
I'm done on the topic. I'm
We
clearly
can end on that.
yeah. We're gonna end on that, and I'm in the offers there. Anybody thinks that they can stand toe to toe with me on this philosophically and historically, let Skipper know you reach out to him. I'll be more than happy to hand you your lunch. Yes, I am that confident.
The loudest one in the room is the one with little man syndrome.
You can.
Settle down.
No, I'm not wrong.
Jeez, that's the fight.
You never are.
No, when I'm wrong, I'll admit it.
Public
But
skill.
I've yet to see anybody point at anything to me other than Israel's chosen country. God, the Jews own it. It's theirs by right. God gave it to them. That's not how this works, folks.
When I'm wrong, I'll
That's not how
admit it,
things
but
work,
I've never
though.
been wrong.
No, I've been wrong about things. That's why I had to change my view on law enforcement. I had to change my view on being a Republican. I had to change my view on Trump. I voted for the guy. I had to change a lot of things. I was a Lincoln. I was a Lincolnian, and it took a lot of time for me to come to the realization that Lincoln fucked over America. He did not save this country. He ruined it. He ruined the United States.
And on top of that, I was a cop too.
And then you should know how dirty and corrupt the law enforcement world is, because I spent 13 years in the field as well.
Ed, were you a New York City police officer?
Houston, Texas.
No. Okay. Did you ever have to give someone a wood shampoo?
I've never even heard of that. I know what it is, but I never heard of it.
I heard from a New York City cop once. He said, yeah, we used to call it giving them a wood shampoo. Just hitting them over the head with a baton.
See, I still
All
think
right,
that
folks.
some policing should be the way it used to be. Like, and I'm going to add this in with the service end of it. If you're a kid and you go out and you steal a car or whatever, and you get caught, now they just give them a little probation, maybe they get a little bit of jail time. No, do it the way they used to do it. You go into the courtroom and the judge says to you, you got a choice. You go to jail or you go in the service. And every guy that I've known, because I grew up in New York City, every guy joined the service instead, straightened out his life, and never got in trouble again.
Skipper, you might
That's the
want
way
to
to
know
go.
his
And I
ending.
got caught shoplifting one time when I was 13 years old. They put me in the tank at the police station for about 8 hours. I learned my lesson,
You might
and I never had to go
want
to
to
court.
know just
Just put me in the tank.
people that have tuned in. There are reports coming out of Washington D.C. of a car bomb. So I don't know how valid it is, but there are
You
reports.
want me to look it up?
Well, I'm looking at the reports right now, and some people are saying car bomb, some are saying car did explode, but we don't know for sure what it is. So,
Did you say in DC?
Yes.
I'm checking on X. I'm not seeing anything yet. Oh, Amazon delivery
Yeah.
van explodes in DC. Here, let me pull it up. Because there is video.
Yep, 41 minutes ago.
Okay. This is all raw, so I can't tell you what the footage looks like or anything.
Just started.
23rd Street South, Sunday, June 29th. Wow.
that's more than a lithium bomb or a lithium explosion, I'll tell you that.
It looks like an explosion.
I was just about to ask, could it have been one of the new electric Amazon vans? But
Lithium would not have. I can't imagine lithium would be doing that like that for that long.
That is not a cop car. That's like a service demon.
The vodka.
Yeah, right?
Hmm.
Hard telling. Could be nothing, but I just thought that you should know.
Yeah, I'm going to see if, real quick, I'm going to see if we can find any other.
Yeah, it's all the same footage.
views.
Yeah.
Well, rest assured, we know one thing will happen. No matter what they decide, it'll be used to drive fear porn. That's for sure. No
Yep.
matter which way you look at it. I'm going to say goodbye. I do want you guys to know the reason I hold the views that I hold is because I love my fellow soldiers, airmen, sailors, Marines, and I love the vets. And I'm just tired of our people being sent to die in other countries. There's not a single place in the world worth losing another American service member in. None. Not one. Bring them home and put them on our border so we can control our border.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of them is going to be working on Homeland anyway.
Well, they actually ought to open up
With
a few
all
bases
these-
along the border. Open a base along the border.
Right.
That'll help.
I think we should open more bases along the border, and then we should put Mexican food joints on them.
There you go.
Georgie, you have a stream coming
Need
up.
more ice.
Do you want to plug it real quick?
Yeah, me, Mismatched, Sounds of Oz, and possibly Sweet Yankee are going to be doing a song competition in
Can TC get in on that?
less than 30 minutes. Mm. I've had enough of Soapbox TC today.
I know what he'll sing. Oh, all right, folks. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you for your comments, questions, all that.
It looks
good
like
stuff.
TC's gone.
Yep.
Hi,
I do
Felicia.
want to thank TC for his very, very strong opinions, as always. Thank you to AVA for being here. Thank you for Ed for being here and for talking about his service. Thank you to Georgie for bringing the chaos.
Same thing happened.
It's my job.
Same thing happened as last time. TC started to get real serious.
He always does. You have to learn to tune him out and take a nap with him,
Make sure everyone tunes in
or just take him out to
to
the woodshed.
Georgie's stream. That will be on her channel, Georgie's Life Unfiltered on YouTube. And anything else? Any last things people are plugging?
Ed, thank you for your service.
Well, thank you, dear. I do see you on your stream every now and then.
I know. I see you in chat.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, folks, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you all for being here. And as always, thank you for being worth serving.
I'll be in touch.